Hey everybody, Leo Gyokhman here, and today I have a very special guest with me, Dr. Tom Mitchell. Dr. Tom Mitchell has a bachelor's in biology, human biology, doctor of chiropractic medicine. He is a certified chiropractic sports physician. He's a certified applied kinesiologist. He is also the founder of the Chicago Institute for Health and Wellness and the chairman for the American Academies of Sports Practitioners and the co-founder of the Sports Combine. Dr. Mitchell is the author of The Mitchell Principle, and I'm really excited to have you here. Dr. Mitchell, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thanks, Leo.
Tell us a little bit about why we're here and what we're going to talk about today for the viewers.
Well, you know, the goal of being here is to educate the patient and or educate the people behind the camera, the people that walk through the door of the office. My job as a physician, in Latin, it means to teach. As doctor means to teach. So somewhere along the lines, we've lost that, and doctors think that we're here to fix the person across from us, and that's not our goal. That's not even our job. Our job is to help them get better in real life, and to keep a healthy, sustainable lifestyle that gives them the ability to perform effectively, efficiently in real life.
Sure. Well, let me ask you, how do you go about teaching people how to live a healthy life?
Well, the first step to anything is to figure out what's going on with that individual, right? So when, let's say, a patient walks through the door, the first step is to comprehensively really take a look at them, listen, do a consult, listen to what they have going on, do a very intensive investigation or exam on that person, and then start to apply an approach that's specific to that individual using objective data. And it's hard to do. I mean, it's not something that's easy, and most people that go into doctors' offices, whether they're allopathic doctors like MDs or DOs or chiropractors, they feel like they're pushed through there. It's right. Get in and out, and we're just going to kind of do this, and I hope you feel better. But our goal is to not just get them feeling better. We want them to feel better. But the goal is to give them the resources, the tools, and teach them how to go out into real life and be a healthy person. And that applies to athletes also. Give them the tools for them to go out and perform at a very elite, efficient, functional level.
That's awesome. Dr. Mitchell, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get to this point in your life and in your career?
I've been practicing chiropractic medicine for the last 10 years. And in that 10 years, I've had the opportunity to work with some of the best physicians in my field, as well as physicians in the allopathic field, like MDs and DOs, and not just in sports medicine, but in functional medicine as well. And functional medicine, what's kind of neat about our office, what's kind of neat about what I do is nothing is the same. So I may see someone walk through the door with migraine, headaches, neck pain, back pain, sports injuries such as an ACL tear or a shoulder tear or something like that, a rotator cuff tear, and then the next person walking through the door may have digestive issues or may have an autoimmune disorder, and they're all there for the same purpose, and it's not actually to get better. They walk through the door thinking they're there to feel better, and they are, and then they walk out of the door understanding what it's like to live a healthier life and to be better, and that's our job, and that's my job. I'm also an athlete, and this is part of the book that I wrote. But my last record that I broke in bench press, I broke the American record in April of 2013, which is from this video a few months ago. Wow. And so I don't just tell you what to do. Right. I try to practice what I'm doing, and that actually helps them understand where they need to go next.
Absolutely, makes perfect sense. Let me ask you this. Can you give us an example of where the current model seems to break down and is even detrimental to the patients, in your opinion?
Well, you know, the model kind of breaks down in one specific main category, and that's everything is reactive. So people don't typically walk into, let's say, a chiropractor's office because they feel great and they just want to make sure that they're doing okay. They just hurt themselves. They went to pick something up, bang, their back goes out. They don't walk into an orthopedic surgeon's office before they blow their ACL. It's always afterwards. So everything is reactive. And what we try to do is we see injuries that have already occurred. There's no doubt about it. We see conditions that are already happening. That's why they walk through the door. But the goal is to get them on a path that leads to prevention of the next injury or the next condition, and you educate that person on what that looks like in terms of what are the concomitants or how things progress with the situation that they're currently in. So if you take a simple ankle sprain and say, okay, I sprained my ankle, 6 weeks later, I know what the tissue damage is, I know how it's going to heal, I know how long it takes to heal, I know the basic components of rehab. But why did they sprain their ankle in the first place? Did they have a weak ankle? Did they have abnormal foot function that led to this sprained ankle? Did they have abnormal spine function that led to this sprained ankle?
Right.
So when you find those things out, then it stops the next injury, or it helps bolster the ability for that person to go back on the field, on the court, or wherever, or back into real life without spraining that ankle again. And then everybody's heard of the person that keeps spraining the same ankle over and over again, and you're probably one of them, because almost everybody's one of them.
Okay.
So what broke down to make that occur? And that's what we do best. You know, there's a basic acronym out there, and it's called RICE, and athletic trainers apply that all the time, and it's rest, ice, compression, elevation. So again, you sprain your ankle, you rest it, you stop running, number one, you put ice on it almost immediately, 15 minutes on, 45 minutes off, no heat, right? Because that's another shift. What do I do? Ice or heat? Nobody knows.
Right.
Well, it's not that hard actually to figure out. If you watch sports at all, the professional athletes that go out there, they put ice on them right away. So just treat your body like you're an athlete, and you make $5 million a year doing it, and you have it down. So then the next step is compression, which could be an ACE bandage, real light compression. You don't want to cut off circulation, and you get it elevated so that you can get inflammation out of the area. But it's not just about treating it as an injury. You have to know the difference between what's soreness and what's an injury or what's pain. So the goal is to educate the coaches, to educate the parents, to educate the kids, people in general, on the difference between the two, and when you need to go to a physician and when you can take care of it yourself.
You actually mentioned a book, and I know that you have written a book. Can you tell us a little bit about the book, and also why did you decide to write it right now?
The book that I wrote is called The Mitchell Principle, and basically what that is, it's a guide to elite performance, but it's also a guide to just a healthy lifestyle. So elite performance can be applied to an athlete, and it can be applied to sports medicine, it can be applied to the weekend warrior, but also those same principles can be applied to everyday people in their everyday life, let's say. The main components of just being an elite athlete, there are certain things and criteria that you see successful athletes go through, or categories that they fill to take themselves to the next level. And that can also be applied to the everyday person out there in terms of their health and their well-being. But the first one is coaching, right?
Okay.
You need proper coaching. Michael Jordan had a basketball coach. He was the best basketball player in the world. He still had a basketball coach. What we do in our office is something called health coaching. And that health coaching is to help people understand where they are, again, apply an approach using objective data, and then take themselves to the next level with our guidance, right? So coaching is number one. The next one is nutrition. And this is the most neglected component to, let's say, sports in general.
Okay.
There's a lot of marketing out there. There's a lot of pre and post workout this, and should you drink Gatorade, and how much sugar's in that, or should you whatever it may be, right? But nobody really applies nutrition the way they need to apply it, from a recovery standpoint, from a priming standpoint. But in the book, what we talk about is a clear vision of how to apply nutrition for the athlete, but also how to apply it for the everyday person so that you're healthier. Simply that. We also talk about training and proper training. So I've coined a term called Neuro-Stabilization Training, and that process, it's an idea. It's how you can apply it to any type of training out there. So it could be sports-specific training, it could be CrossFit training, it could be weight training or resistance training and power training. It doesn't matter, because when you apply the principle to what you're doing, what it does is it trains the brain. It trains the brain to work more effectively, more efficiently in the activity that you're doing. And so when the athlete or the person steps back onto the playing field or steps back to work, they're using their bodies correctly, and the motion there is effective, efficient, and it leads a lot to the prevention of injuries, as opposed to, again, the reactive care that we talked about. the next step is injury care. And again, we talked about that a little bit. What to do when you get injured. Is it ice? Is it heat? When to do ice? When to do heat? All those things. Those are all covered in the book. That's important, but basic information that everybody can apply, coaches, athletes, moms, dads, whatever. But the real key to the book, again, is prevention. You're going to hear that word over and over again because that's the goal. It's a whole lot easier to keep people out of trouble than to pull them out of trouble. And the purpose of the book is to allow them to see an idea of how to prevent the injuries or how to prevent themselves from getting a disease, getting injured, being tired, whatever it may be. That's why we wrote the book.
Very interesting. You mentioned health coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about what health coaching is and what that means?
Sure. At least as we apply it. Health coaching to us is really a strategic partnership between the physician and the patient. And what we do, we bring people in, we do detailed consults, very comprehensive exams, run enough objective data that we have a really good picture of what's happening with that person. Then we apply a strategy to get them better, whatever it may be. Again, it might be a shoulder injury, it might be headaches, it might be neck pain, or it might be some other functional conditions. But we then lay out a program for them to follow, and what we use objective data to make sure that what we're doing is actually working, as opposed to like, hey Leo, are you feeling better? Right. Sure, I feel better. Well, okay, what does that mean? Exactly. It doesn't mean that you're getting better, it just means that maybe we're masking the symptoms somehow, because sometimes we do that, right? So we want to see the objective data go in the right direction, but it also allows us to hold each other accountable. So you get to be accountable, you get to be accountable to me, because I'm going to ask you to do certain things. And then we're going to track that, and we're going to make sure, using objective data, that you're doing those things. And then I'm accountable to you, because what happens is, if I'm asking you to do these things, and you're not getting better, then you want to know why. Right. So then I'm accountable to say, well, what we're doing actually isn't right. And quite honestly, I reserve the right to be wrong, because I'm not perfect, and neither are you, and neither is any physician or non-physician out there. Right. So the purpose is for you to hold me accountable, so that if we're not getting the results that we're looking for, then we change gears. We shift direction a little bit, and then we keep applying it until we find out really what works best for, let's say, Leo Gyokhman.
Why don't you tell us some things we need to know about increasing performance and keeping ourselves healthy in our day-to-day activities?
Okay, so what we've come up with is an acronym, and it's real basic. It's just be healthy. So these are the things that people need to do every single day to be healthy individuals. But this applies to the athlete. This applies to, again, to the everyday person. It's not about just performing at a very high level, but if you think about performing at a very high level, you can think of the elite athlete, you can think of the track stars and the basketball stars or the volleyball stars or whatever, but you also want to look at the people around you that really are healthy individuals, but they're not healthy because they're 18, right. They're healthy because, and they're 40 and they're 50 and they're 60 years old. So those are elite performers to me also. So the acronym Be Healthy, it basically goes like this. The first one is just, the B stands for be engaged. Understand your body, understand what's happening with it, understand the difference between pain and soreness, be alert to what's going on around you, just be engaged, right? The second one is eat well, okay? Food is inflammatory. And so people think, to be healthy, it's really easy, diet and exercise. What does that mean, right? Diet and exercise. Yeah. So I eat whole wheat bread instead of white bread. Well, neither is good for you, but nobody takes that into account. So they read the next book, or they do the next thing, and it's the next diet, I want to lose weight and all that. Well, food's inflammatory, so you need to know that. You need to understand how food works in the body, how you digest it, how you assimilate it, how you get rid of the waste product. All of those are important, and quite honestly, every individual is different. So you need to know really how to eat well. H, healthy habits, right? But habits in general, we're creatures of habit, right? So I wake up every day at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I get up and I brush my teeth and I do this and this. So if you're going to create habits, just make them good ones, and you need to know how to plan your day to do that, and how that works. And it sounds a whole lot easier than it is. Absolutely true. But if you're going to create habits, just make them good ones. The next E stands for elimination. Okay, so elimination, most people think of elimination as, okay, get all the bad stuff out of my body.
Right.
Okay, that's true, you're supposed to do that. But it also means eliminating bad relationships in your lives, or eliminating the things that don't help you as a person get better, right? So let's take a coach. Let's say you have a coach that doesn't really click with you. They scream and yell and throw their arms up and they intimidate you. Well, that's the wrong coach. You need to be encouraged. So that's okay. That coach might be an elite coach who gets 90% of their kids or their athletes to just start them. Fantastic. But if it doesn't work for you, then eliminate that aspect and go to something that actually works better for you. Same with your doctor, right? And I really truly believe this. If you don't fit with your doctor, if they're not listening to you, if you don't feel comfortable with them, fire them. You're allowed to. We actually work for you. So it's a matter of, okay, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if this works for me. I'm going to go try somebody else. And that's totally okay. And I tell all my patients that with me or with other physicians in my office, whatever it may be. A is activity, right? Be active. It doesn't mean you have to go run a marathon. It doesn't mean you have to go to the gym. It doesn't have to mean you pump weights. It means that you just have to live an active lifestyle. Garden, cut your grass. I don't care what you do. Quite honestly, whatever you enjoy, but you got to get your body moving. L is for liquids. We're chronically dehydrated in this country. So rule of thumb is, ounces of body weight. I don't even know what that is. I couldn't even tell you what that saying is. You know what? Drink 96 ounces of water a day. There was a study out there that said you don't have to drink 64 ounces of water. That's a myth, and it just doesn't work. And at the end, and it was published in the newspapers. And at the end of this article, it said you should take in as much water as you excrete every day, 64 ounces. So it was boggling to me why it would say drinking 64 ounces is a myth, and then at the end of the article is drink 64 ounces of water. But really, you got to push that up because we're so chronically dehydrated. Get it up there. Liquids it does not mean caffeine. It doesn't mean coffee. It doesn't mean tea. It doesn't mean soda. Sodas, no. It doesn't mean any of those things. It means 96 ounces of water. So get your liquids in. The T there is thinking. Mm-hmm. Everything comes, there's a great author out there, Napoleon Hill, passed away a long time ago, wrote a great book called Think and Grow Rich. And the first words of that book are, thoughts are things. They're tangible things. So you have to put your brain there. You have to know what you're going for. You have to think about it. You have to visualize it. You have to do all these great things, and it helps quite a bit. H is you got to let your body heal. If you do get injured, if you are sick, if you have a disease, whatever it may be, take a break, take a deep breath, and you have to let your body heal. If you don't do that and you just keep pushing through it, basically it just leads to chronic injuries, chronic disease. Right. That leads to all kinds of bad things. The last Y is not a Y, it's actually the word why, and it's why and comply is what I say. So the why is, if you're in a doctor's visit, challenge that doctor. Why are you putting me on this medication? As a chiropractor, why are you putting me on this regimen of care? What's the purpose behind it? What does it do? Like, ask all those questions. And if you don't get the right answers, or if they're too busy for you, then go to a different doctor, fire them. Same with me, fire me. Because you need to have those answers, because quite honestly, I'm not Leo, right? I don't have to walk home with neck pain, back pain, headaches, digestive disorders, autoimmune disorders. Like, that's not me. You have to deal with that. So it's your responsible to get that information. But once you get that information and you're comfortable and you respect that physician or that advice, you have to comply with that. Okay. So if I tell you to do X, and you say, whatever, well, you can't expect to get better, right? So you really have to comply once you get the why satisfied to your liking.
Wow, that was awesome and extremely eye-opening. Now, I also know that you have made an incredible offer for the athletes that are watching this interview. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Leo, what we're doing today for the athlete is we're taking our true baseline assessment, which is something we do in the office, and it's typically a $500 assessment, and we're knocking it down to $79. It's just for a very limited time, but that's what we're doing because of this interview that we're having. So what a true baseline assessment is everybody does baseline concussion assessments on a computer. It's a great tool, we do it. But then we add some extra steps. We add a functional neurologic assessment, and we also add an orthopedic assessment to that. So the athlete, so we have a true baseline on the athlete, so when they go out there, they're less apt to get hurt, but if they do get hurt, we already know what their ACL looks like. We already know what their brain functioning is. So we have a much better way to assess what the damage is, what the protocol is to get them back, to get them better and get them back on the field more effectively, more efficiently, and quicker, quite honestly, and stronger.
Sure.
Simply that.
So for those athletes that want to take advantage of this, is there a number that they can call, or what do they have to do?
Yeah, you know what, just call the office. My front desk coordinator will take care of everything. The number is 224-535-8707, and we'll get them in as quickly as possible and take care of business.
Excellent. So that, again, that's 224-535-8707. Mention that they saw the interview where you made this offer, and I know you guys will take good care of them. Dr. Mitchell, I just want to thank you so much for your time. This was absolutely eye-opening. I know that I've learned a tremendous amount, and I know that the viewers have as well. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Yeah, thanks, Leo. Appreciate it.
Thank you.